Hi, I'm Kyle.
I'm Josh.
This is Two Guys, One Car.
Welcome to our car.
Dude, it starts with Two Guys, One Car. That's the name. It should start
It's
with
welcome
the
to our car.
name. No, but it has to start with Two Guys, One Car because that's the name of the thing.
Just get in the back seat.
Right along with us.
Yeah, we'll just get straight into it. This is a sort of a spontaneous pod. We had a pretty wild experience happen to us. What day is it today? What day even is it? It's
Thursday.
Okay. Pretty wild experience happened to us almost a week ago now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
almost
yeah.
a week.
Because it was Friday night. Yeah.
It's one of those, I guess, experiences that you like always sort of not dream about in a sense of you want it to happen. Dream about of like, imagine how crazy that would be if this happened to us. Like you hear of those stories.
Yeah, and what would I do if I was in that situation? You can kind of pick one of two paths as you'll get to know. But like, what would I do? Because ultimately, I don't think we have a say in it. You obviously do make a choice, but based on who you are day to day, you make a certain choice in these situations.
It's definitely the reaction. Like the how you train each and every day of your life will determine how you react in this kind of a situation. So I think we're just going to get straight into it. For, I guess, identity's sake, we're not going to share this person's actual name. We're going to be calling them Dan in this story.
Yeah.
Essentially what happened to introduce the scene and sort of set the vibe, there was myself, Kyle, Will, and Patrick, our friends. We were driving to Canberra to then get in somebody else's car to drive to the snow to go hiking for the weekend. We ended up leaving Terry Hills 1.5 hours later than we were meant to, which when I think about it, it plays into the story of us like being there or not. We can't say for sure that we wouldn't have been like where we were at that time. But I think we would have missed it if we left on time. So props to you, Kyle, because...
Props to Kyle.
Props to Kyle.
We can give Kyle a little bit of props, but we can also give a certain man, William Dearden, some props as well. I keep getting thrown under the bus for this, but I wasn't the only one who was late. I rocked up late because of Dearden. I'll blame it on Dearden. He said he was going to message us when he left work. Didn't message us, said, I'm on the way now. I was meant to go and pick him up. And he was late from work, like 2 hours.
Okay.
We've written a little script here, and Josh said an hour and a half late. No, we left 2 plus hours late because of Dearden.
Okay. Dearden and Kyle, combined effort. There's no I in team, buddy. Yeah, so the scene set, that was the intent of our trip. We're driving down. We got onto the Hume motorway, and given that I'm a mechanic, anytime I see a car with hazard lights on, I really do like to pull over to see if I can offer any kind of assistance. 9 times out of 10, people don't need help. And honestly, anyone listening to this, I would just suggest like pulling over. If you don't think you can help, like in terms of fixing a car, there's a person there. Like there's emotions there. You can help a person. Like
just problem solve. Like we all problem solve day to day. So it's like you're going in with a neutral point of view. Nothing's biased to you. You could definitely help them in some sort of way.
Definitely.
Give them some clarity.
just some water, even something super simple. Make a phone call for them. So yeah, just I guess next time you drive past a car with hazards on, if you're not in a rush or you don't have to be somewhere, just like think about, if I pulled over, like could I help this person? And what would that look like? So we're driving down the Hume motorway. It's about 9 o'clock at night or so, roughly. Yeah, about 9. We see a car on the left-hand side in the emergency lane, half up the sort of the mound and half in the emergency lane, with the hazards on. So I say to Kyle, hey, let's pull over. I'll see if I can do anything. We pull over about 50 meters in front of the car.
50 plus, like it was a decent amount away.
And I say, you guys just stay here. 9 times out of 10, like they don't need anything. They're fine.
And that's not Josh saying that now. Josh actually said that to us. He's like 9 times out of 10, it's not an issue.
So I jump out of the car, start walking back to the car with the hazards on. Initially, I can't see anyone. I just see a car with hazards on. So I was sort of thinking, like they've just left the car there, which is actually quite of a common occurrence. So I'm walking back, and then I see someone appear, and I'm approaching, and my I guess, thought going into it is always try to be as like calm as possible, because like the person might already be in a high stress situation. They might be freaking out and then appears a stranger out of the dark. Like how are they going to react towards me? So I always try to like have my hands out of my pockets and just not like give them no reason to question me and like my purpose for being there, because I always just want to help them. So I'm very intent with like how I approach them. So I'm like walking up quite calmly. This guy appears from behind the car, and then he like opens the driver's door to like lean in as if to like grab something out. And from like 5-10 meters away, I say like, "Hey mate, like, are you all good? Do you need any help?" He just didn't respond to me. So I walk up to him and he's just bawling. He's crying his eyes out and he's just saying, I'm sorry. And for clarity, like he was like wailing, like there was so much pain in his voice. And I was instantly confused. Like, what is he sorry for? I remember like running through my mind was like, has he killed someone? Like, did something just happen? Like, what has happened? What's he sorry for? Did he steal a car? Like, what's going on? So I'm already like asking all these questions in my mind, and I'm just like, man, like it's all good. You don't need to be sorry. Like, how did you get here? That's what I wanted to know. Like, how is the car in this position that it's in? Are you okay? Like, what's going on? Is there anyone else here? This is like everything I'm asking him, and he just keeps saying, I'm sorry. And then he proceeds to say like, I need a lift back to Sydney. Can you give me a lift back to Sydney? And I'm like, how did you get here? Like, I need to know how you got here before anything happens. Like, what's happening? And like, give me some context to this situation. And he just like bawls his eyes out. I'm sorry. And then I'm like, all right, this guy's like clearly not really responding to me. I need to assess like safety, like this situation for my own safety. So I start to like look around the car, and as I look in the car, I see like open, like cans of alcohol. So immediately I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy's like so drunk and he's driving on the highway. I'm like, that's insane. Like so many thoughts just rushed through my head of like, whoa, this could have like ended so badly so quickly. It's like Kyle and I always talk about like, that's an arm. Like everyone has those moments where, you know, like you almost cut your finger when you're cutting a vegetable, or almost slam your hand in a door, or like any of those little situations where like something drastic could have happened. Your life could have changed drastically, but it didn't. And you just carry on with your day. And
you forget about it. It never happens. Like you just never think of it again.
Yeah. Like you almost step out into traffic and a car hits you and you're like, whoa, that's my arm. Like that's my life. So I was like, oh my goodness, that's a life right there kind of situation. Just a drink driver on a motorway. So then he asked again, like, can you give me a lift back to Sydney? And I was like, yeah, like 100%. Because at this point, as soon as I saw the drinks, I was straight away like, I need to tell my friends to call the police, but I can't alert this guy of what I'm doing. Because at this point, I didn't even know him at all. And I didn't know like if he was aggressive or what was happening. So I wanted to be as subtle as possible. So when he said that gave me an in, and I said, yeah, no worries, man. I'll just message my friends and like see what we can do. So I pull out my phone and I message the group chat to all of the guys in the car, and just like capital letters was like, call the cops, separate message, drink driving. And I guess Kyle will pick up here and continue on.
Yeah. So where we're left off at is you leaving the car and going to head down to the gentleman in the car. And the last thing I hear from you is 9 out of 10 times, it's nothing. So with that, it's me turning around to the two boys in the back, and we're excited for a trip down to Cozzy. It's a hike. We're super excited because it's just the unknown, and we're all having a laugh. And it's just funny because we were just sitting there like having the time of our lives, just all cacking and stuff like that. And I just chose to look at my phone. Like about 2-3 minutes later, I look down, see on the phone, capital letters, call the cops, drink driving. And initially I was like, what? I just didn't get what you meant. And then I realized, oh my God, like the car had crashed. And then it actually flickered into my head. The car was like wasn't parked like you would normally park in that emergency type lane. It was like up the hill sort of. And then
reversed.
weird, very strange. And I just was like, oh shit, like there's something wrong. And I didn't think about drinking. I just thought about, oh no, you said drink driving. So I just didn't even think about it. I just went, oh shit, Josh is in trouble. Thinking about you, like as in, because you said call the cops, as in what's going on. You must be in some sort of trouble. So all three of us got out of the car and started going down there. I said to Pat, just call the cops. Me and Will will go down because me and Will were first out of the car. So we started running down there. And then we met with you and him. I can't remember if he was still in the car when we got there. Do you remember?
No, he was out.
Okay, so he was out of the car. Oh, that's right. He was out of the car. You were sort of near the car door. And he was just on the side of the road, still standing there, just crying, just tears rolling down his face. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, who are you? Like started, because obviously numbers are piling up. Me and Will arrived there first. We see him like, who are you? Starting to sort of freak out, as in, oh, I'm in trouble. There's people here now. And I know Will would speak for this as well, but being the first two there, the initial thoughts for us were, oh my God, like the highway is right next to this place. This guy's clearly just not with it. So the initial assessment is this guy is not stable. He can't think straight. And the highway is like, honestly, less than like 3 meters away. And it's that time of night, like trucks are rolling through. It's just like, if he takes any step out there, he's done. So for me and Will, it was just instinct just to like stop him from walking out on the road. So before we even established connection, it was like more important that we just actually pushed him back, and we had to be physical. We would be. So initially it's like we get there, you're obviously going to sort out the car. We kind of just had that conversation without having it. And like me and Will just like sat him down. So we pushed him, like not pushed him, but almost like put our bodies in the way of him and pushed him to the edge of like this hill that was on the side of the highway. And we sat down. Will like made him sit down, which was perfect. I wasn't even thinking about it, but Will was like, sit down. So I sort of sat next to him, wrapped my arm around him, and Will sort of squatted in front. So if he ever actually got up and I couldn't hold him down, Will was right there to just push him back. And the car was on the right, so it was fine. So the initial chat was, so Josh was obviously fixing the car, diagnosing the car's issue. So
like whilst you guys were chatting to him, I made it like very intent to get his keys off him, because like you take someone's keys away, they can't drive a car, especially in that state. So I was just like, oh man, I'll move your car for you. It's like, it's parked in a bad spot. Like I need to move it off the road. I was just trying to like, I don't know, say whatever I could to get the keys into my hands. So once I got the keys into my hand and you guys were like guiding him to sit down, I went over to the car, and looked in, the car was still in drive. So like, I was like, damn, he's been here for a while.
Ages.
Tried to start the car, the battery was dead. So I was like, wow, he's been here for a long time. Like he's at least 30, 40 minutes minimum. So it was fascinating to me at that point. Like I had a moment in my car, and I also assessed like what was going on in the car. Like I saw even more drinks around the car. All the interior lights were on, and I just thought to myself, like, there was like at least 30 to 40 minutes where this guy was here and we weren't here, and nobody else was here, because at least in my mind, anyone that had stopped would have like done something similar to us, or at least called the police and like driven off if they felt unsafe or something like that. So I'm like, wow, like he survived off his face for 30 minutes minimum. Like that's nuts. Like we're here. That's also nuts. Just so much is going through my mind. Car won't start. So then I get out, turn all the lights off and just lock the car and chuck the keys in my pocket. I really didn't want him to ask for the keys back. Even though the car wouldn't start.
Because then it would break that relationship.
Yeah, it was just like, it was just ease for me to hold on to the keys. So then we sit down and so we sit down. Josh ends up sitting down with us. We've just made initial contact with like, me and Will are almost there, just like, what the hell do we even say to this dude? So we're just like, hey man, like I'm Kyle, like introduce a name, sort of like to just like develop relation, keep the eye contact, touch. Like I've got my arm around him. I was like, it's okay, man. It's so okay. Like you're doing fine. You've made it this far. Just sort of speaking some initial stuff while he's crying, just to put him in a better state, because he obviously can't, he's not thinking for himself. He's barely making any choices. His brain is just running off like whatever he's feeling in the moment, all the bad things. And he was bawling his eyes out. And
then he started sort of, I guess when you sat down, he started just like speaking. So Josh was on the other side now. So it's me and Josh, arm around him on either side, and Will in the middle, while Pat's still calling the police. Which
we were very intent about, like how we chose to see it. I think like subconsciously, and just like we were all communicating to each other, like non-verbally, just like all putting ourselves on the same page of like, we need to be alert because this guy is like clearly off his face, and he's bawling, and he just proceeded to say like wailing, like, I miss my ex, in so much pain.
And like the way he was talking about those things, the ex thing was the biggest one, I think. I think Dearden said the same thing, but it was just like, it was like this like build up of like all the shit things he's like dealing with or had in his brain that was just like consuming him, and he was building and building, and then he was just like he was like my brother, like I didn't mean to, like I didn't mean to.
He was saying that to me later, but
he's like I didn't mean to, and then he was like, and then he was building, and then he was just like my ex, and then like just it actually gives me chills, like the wail and his like bellowing from his chest was just like him being able to speak his pain, which was insane. Like none of us were saying a word when he was saying that, because there was no words. Like you had to just let him just wail.
It translated like to all of us, all of that pain. And I think the scariest thing and what made it so real was when he was saying like, I'm not meant to be here. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, let me go. Essentially, like he was suicidal at that point for sure.
Which makes you think in that 30 to 40 minutes, what the hell was going through his head? Was he like considering a decision to walk out on the highway, or like was there something in his car? Like what was he thinking about? Because when we were there, he was just like, and after that big wail, he started to be like, I don't belong here. Like I shouldn't be here. I don't need to be here. No one would care. Like just going on and on and on. It got so real so fast. And resisting, like in touch as well, like trying to get up, like resisting us.
And it was just, I think from our part, like constant confirmation of him, constant confirmation that like he has nothing to be sorry for. He's a good person. And I think one of the beautiful things that he did say at the start was, he mentioned that he'd gotten through like everything and that he's at this point where he's at now. Like he was giving himself credit for overcoming all the humps that he's had in his life. And we like in that, as soon as, I don't know, it's just like any drunk person, I guess, when they're saying something, if you just like amplify whatever it is they're saying, they'll like believe that even more. So like when he's giving himself props, we just pile on top of that.
Oh yeah.
And it starts to build him up. And like really what this guy's absent in is love. Like it was, I think, very clear to all of us that this man just needed love in his life. And that was something he'd just been lacking.
Yeah.
So once we started to give that to him, it started to shift the dynamic from like suicidal and a depressive state to a sort of happy state. And I think just through language and what we were saying
and energy. Really so like as a group, change. Pat had come back by this point and finished talking to the cops for like 10, 15 minutes while we were getting an initial basis with Dan. And like when Pat came back, it was 4 of us around him, 2 in front, 2 either side. And like the energy between us, like he just fed off it. Whatever it was, he was going to feed off it. So we just had to put in an effort to lock down and just pull the energy up. It was like a seesaw. It was like he was either fully just like in the rut, thinking about everything bad or thinking about how good things are. So it was like, it was our job to push the seesaw to the left and push him into that good state, which we did.
And yeah, I remember thinking as well that like the easiest way to get someone speaking is just ask them questions.
Yeah.
And like they're gonna be forced to answer. Especially a drunk person. You can just dial it down to the most basic sort of questions. So like we just started rattling off like almost like would you rathers, I guess, like barbecue.
Just trivial
like
stuff.
Barbecue or tomato sauce, meat rolls, sausage pies.
Meat roll, sausage pie.
Sorry, meat pie or sausage roll. Damn, I'm tired. meat pie or sausage roll. All of these sorts of questions, and whatever his reaction was, we would just amplify on that. I think he said barbecue sauce, and we're all just like, yes, barbecue sauce,
like screaming. Like we're on the highway.
Of our lungs, like it's the noise level is so loud already from the passing cars, so we're just absolutely screaming this, and it was amazing seeing like Dan's just energy start to lift with ours. And we just kept these questions going. I think we all knew that if we could just keep the ball rolling, that like it was going to hold out until the cops arrived. So I think it was like really just anything. We're talking about state of origin, his work, just anything we could think of.
Yeah. And you could tell that some things were a hit and a miss. So if you could tell it was a miss, you fire another question because his brain was incapable of processing two things at once. So if you hit him with another question, he's now just thinking about that. And you can ride off those. The biggest one was like when we were talking about Koopy Mayo, that lit up. Like everyone was just screaming and just like arms around each other, like, yes, Koopy Mayo, yes, like top of our lungs. And he was just so pumped.
Yeah, it was so funny. And I remember that segue, like Dearden spoke of like how we made like the Big Mac sauce, which is like Koopy Mayo, mustard, like 1 part Koopy Mayo, 1 part mustard, 1 part sriracha and black pepper. And like we were like saying those, and as we said Koopy, he's like Koopy Mayo. Yeah. And
then just like, oh, you're gonna give us that
like,
nugget?
Here it is. We'll just run with this bowl of Koopy Mayo.
Yeah.
And it was funny, like it was amazing how it went from like we were so in the moment and like so survival mode. But like as we were like 30 minutes into this sort of just like joking around, laughing, I honestly like had a moment where I was like, life is so simple. Like we're just 5 guys, just laughing at life.
And like we don't know this guy
at all.
We're just communicating through common points of interest that we can share. And it's just about sharing, you know what I mean? Like sharing the stuff that you love, which turns back to what you were saying is like all he needed was love. And we kind of just like by chance had that on offer. And he just soaked it up.
Yeah. Like what was sort of going through your mind like midway through?
To be honest, I think like I was like surrendering to the energy. Like I was just in the moment, just like loving it and trying to not take it too seriously, because if you took it too seriously, maybe I'd slip up. So like maybe he'd be talking to like 1 or 2 of them and I'd make a joke to one of our friends who was there, trying to just keep the vibe like not as serious, you know what I mean? So we didn't succumb to like, holy shit, what is the magnitude of this? Like, is he actually going to get up? Or like, I didn't want to find myself falling into that. So I'd make an off joke here and there, to 1 or 2 of the others. But at that point, like you can't really know anything because you can't process anything because you're just still collecting data on the situation.
You're in the moment. We're still rolling with it. And I think the biggest thing as well, like what was going to make, I guess, like that mission, if you will, successful was constant stimulus for Dan. Like the second there was a point where I saw you were talking to Pat, and I think Will was like talking to Pat, and I saw Dan sort of like phase out. He sort of tapped out of that conversation, and I was like
come back.
We need stimulus. We need stimulus for Dan. So I asked him a question, whatever it was, and it's like that's all he needed, because like the second he didn't have any like stimulus in front of him, anything to grasp, that's when like all those evil thoughts started creeping back in for him. So if you just prompt him with something, like he's going to be forced to answer and respond.
Another thing that we haven't mentioned is like he actually started wigging out at some point. At one point he would like look at me and Josh because we're either side of him, and he'd like pull you back and stare at you for way too long through your soul and be like, you're not real. You're not real. And this was like midway. So we had to combat that and be like, dude, we're here. Like, it's fine. Like, we're here, man. We're here to help. Like, we're not looking after you. We're just helping you. You know what I mean? Like, we're helping you get through this. We're your brothers. Like, just like kept just like feeding that to him. And he came around. But this whole time, this was like 40 minutes. Was it 40 minutes?
It was 50 minutes before the cops showed up.
Which is fair. We're not shitting on them, but it's like, it's a highway. So they did have to get there.
Yeah. And like the reality thing was scary because it happened twice. The first time it happened was quite short and we pulled him out of it quickly. But the second time it happened, I just remember he was staring straight at me and he like sort of like had pushed me away and is just looking straight through me.
Yeah.
And he's like, this isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. Just spiraling. And I can see the freak out in his eyes and his mind. And I just remember saying like, man, if this isn't real, like it's not real for me either because I'm here with you, bro. Like we're in this together.
Smart.
And it's funny how you don't really know what you're saying. You just like come up with something on the spot and hope it works. And I mean, it eventually works. You sort of like snap back into reality. But I think that moment I was like, all right, I'm starting to question like, is there more than alcohol here? Because I don't think
alcohol's never done that.
In my experience, I've never, I guess, gone delusional with alcohol. I haven't lost touch with reality. So at that point, you're starting to question, and it's fascinating how you would think in like such a high stress situation, you'd be so focused on the task at hand. But I found my mind just thinking about like so many other things, like with Dan, like how did he end up here? Like, what's the game plan if this happens, if he hits us, like what are we doing? There was just so many things that I was like thinking of, and it was kind of cool, to be honest. Like, I guess like I'm like, I don't want that to happen. I never want to experience that. No one should ever have to go through that. But at the same time, it was like amazing to experience like what the human body and mind is capable of, like when we have to.
Yeah.
Like when we have to survive.
What does that flight? So you got a taste of what that flight feels like. I mean, fight, sorry. Yeah. What that fight feels like.
Definitely.
Which is interesting. But after about 40 to 50 minutes, the boys in blue showed up. So
prior to that though, the selfie.
Oh yeah. So it was basically, well, we didn't know they were there yet. But I think it was just like the timing. They rocked up. But we were like, oh, we were actually started thinking about like, how do we get in contact with this guy? It's like, I think we all realized like this interaction, we could maybe even like talk to this guy afterwards, like expand on what happened tonight and just be like, maybe see where he's at. Maybe we could help him or something. Anything, you know what I mean? Like just retain that contact. So we started, obviously he is so out of it, so he can't distinguish like giving us his number or anything like that. So I think you put your number in his phone or you called him off your phone or whatever. And then I did and got his Facebook and stuff. But
we took a selfie on his phone,
so,
and we were looking at that. And then we all noticed like the lights rocked up behind his car, like the cops. And like, I just remember instantly thinking, like, get this phone in front of him so he does not like recognize that the cops are there. Yeah. Like, just do not let him realize the cops, because we don't know how he's going to react.
Oh yeah.
Like, for starters, like his primal instinct in that moment is like, he knows he's done something wrong and it's probably going to be run. Like, yes, that's just two things I don't want to happen.
Correct. The thing that sucked as well was that because it was so dark and it's the highway and we're at a strip where there's no lights, it's just like the only lights that are on are headlights and those big red and blue flashing lights. So they pull up behind his car, no matter where he's looking, he knew. So I think, his initial reaction was he was so happy, laughing, and then he found out, instant switch to shit, cops are here. And then what's interesting is he didn't actually get up and run. He sort of was like
he was
on edge, agitated, but he didn't get up to run instantly. He was speaking. He was like, I didn't do it.
Yeah, I wasn't driving. And it's so amazing how, like, even though like he was so out of his mind, people are so quick to like pull themselves out of it, to not take accountability.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously you were driving, dude, but it's like, I wasn't driving. Like straight away, it's like, I'm not like taking any accountability.
It's almost like he was trying to convince himself because the cops weren't there yet. We could just see their lights. And he was just saying to himself, I wasn't driving, like psyching himself into that state. But they rolled round. So they rolled up behind the car. Two of them walked over. And obviously we're all suspects at this point. I don't know what Pat said to the police on the phone, but they sort of came up to us and they hang on, all right guys, like, who was driving? They were pretty good. They came up pretty chill. But they asked us who was driving. We're obviously all suspects. Now at this point, you would think that you would say, oh, it was him. But again, the situation being we're right next to the highway, we're trying to keep him calm. We've built this trust over the last 40, 50 minutes. We don't want to break that for him. We want to keep that safe environment. So none of us ratted him out. And all the cops are just looking at us like, who the hell was driving? But then I think from there, Dearden had tried to pull one of the female officers to the side to explain the whole situation to them. And then as they were speaking, she had found the alcohol in the car. So she just cut Will off and then went to go have a look at that. And then the cop asked again who was driving, and Dan bumps me and goes, oh, my mate was, as if I'm his mate and I was driving. And then he looks at me and he's like, have you got your license? And I said no, even though I do. Yeah.
And again, like, it comes back to like, I wasn't just going to say Dan was driving purely for the fact of like, as Kyle said, we'd built that trust. The one thing this guy needs in his life is love. And for us to just like build up love with him and then like rat him out like that would ruin him. What everyone needed in that situation was for him to take like responsibility and accountability for his actions. So when it failed, like when Will tried to tell the female cop that like the situation and she palmed him off, it was like, okay, like I'm just going to get up and tell them. So I remember standing up and then I pulled the female cop aside and told her everything. I still had his car keys, so I gave her Dan's car keys. And then she went over and told the male cop. And I'm standing next to the male cop and then he looks at Dan and just goes, I think you're telling me fibs, mate. And I think at that point, Dan was under the impression that like he had essentially like snitched on me per se. I was standing next to the cop, so I think in his field of vision, it was like, oh, this guy's getting in trouble for something he hasn't done. And this moment was truly, truly beautiful.
Amazing.
I think all of us knew from like early on that this guy had a good heart, but this just solidified it. He literally, as soon as like the cop said that, it was amazing. He just took complete accountability and responsibility for his actions. And he just said like, no, it was me, like I was driving, like I'm disqualified. I have no license. Like I was driving.
Yeah. To the point of like, he put his hands behind his back and he was like, take me in. It was me. Just like fully embracing everything.
Freaking out as well. Like saying they're going to deport me, like just throw me in silver water, like truly freaking out. And it was beautiful. Yeah.
But I think it was like, he wasn't aware of that. It was obvious. His brain didn't have the capability to realize, okay, it's obvious you were driving. So he made that choice on true merit of being, I'm going to be as honest as I can, which was so cool to see. And that did affirm the fact that he had just had a good heart, which was really interesting. Definitely. And for us it was, I think just me and Pat who was still sitting with him. He was just like, before Josh had gotten up, whilst Josh had gotten up and talked to the police, he was obviously still freaking out, just looking everywhere, just stimulus. So we had been like, it's okay. We're here with you. It's okay. We just kept repeating the same words just to like bring him down. And then that happened with him getting up.
Yeah. And then it was essentially sort of like, I guess, wrapping up from there. I know when the cops got there, like I did have a big sense of relief, but at the same time, I was just scared of like what was going to happen to him. And like this isn't me saying that the cops aren't doing like the right thing. Like they have a job to do, and I can't even imagine how hard their job is, like dealing with that all the time. Like for all we know, like they went straight from there to another situation like that. But it's just like knowing what this guy needs, being love, and knowing like the cops are going to do their job rightfully so, and just like be disciplined and like be forceful in a way, I guess. All that love is going to be removed. And I was like, I hate this. Like, I hate that this is
the situation.
The situation. You're not blaming it on anyone. I'm not blaming it on anyone. It's just, it sucks that like this is what is going to happen now.
Well, that speaks to community, right? I think that means that he shouldn't be in this situation. It's like, what has the community and society done to miss out? And sometimes when people listen to stories like this, it's like, oh, well, I would have done this in that situation, or I don't know anyone who could get to that point. It's like, you probably do, like someone who could go down that path. And that's your responsibility to take hold of that and make sure they don't go down that path. And he was just so clearly deprived of love. And it's just sad that someone could get to that point. And then now it's just like, what can you do to bring that love back into his life through like law enforcement? It's just not going to work. So it's like, it's what is missed out beforehand, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So cops are there, like he's owned up to everything. And we're saying our goodbyes to Dan. He looks at us and just gives all of us like the best hug I've ever received. And like, this is no word of a lie. That was genuinely the most meaningful, firm hug I've ever received in my life. And he looked at all of us and just said, you guys are all true blue Aussies. Like, you guys are genuine people. And like, that was probably the best compliment I've received in my life, because he genuinely meant that. Like, I think deep down, he sort of knew like what we'd done. And it was just, again, like once again, reconfirming like this guy is a good person. Like, he's just circumstances, he's made bad decisions, but he has a good heart.
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks to all of us know what good and bad is, and he knew what good is, but bad had just consumed him in certain ways. But he definitely knows what the meaning of good is, which was It's amazing.
Yeah.
It was cool.
And I remember like specifically the last thing I said to him, like I grabbed him because at the start he told us like he'd gotten through everything like up until this point and he was still standing. And when the cops came, he was freaking out and he said like, I can't do it. Like I can't make it. Like it's done. It's over. And I grabbed him and I said like, Dan, like, remember what you said to me when I first met you? You said that like you've gotten through everything life's thrown at you and you were still standing. And I said, this is just another thing and you're going to get through that and you're going to be okay. And then like, I guess like the cops took him away, like to the back of their car and they told us like twice, like really firmly, make sure you guys don't leave. We need a statement. Like make sure you do not leave. We need a statement. And we were just like, yeah, cool. Like we're just going to wait in our car. It was like 9:40, 10 o'clock by this point, freezing cold. So we all just started walking up and like sat in the car.
Yeah. So we basically just sat in the car and we had the time. We knew they were dealing with him, so we knew we'd have a bit of time. And Josh sort of announced that like, let's just talk about what the hell just happened. Like what? Because none of us had processed it at all. It's just a bunch of initially like, what? It's just like, what the hell was that? And then I think what's good that you did is just almost like you made it easy by just being like, okay, describe exactly what you're feeling right now. What do you feel? And it wasn't as simple as that. But the one thing I couldn't get out of my head was the pain. He was like showing through his, like just crying. And like, that wasn't crying though. Like that was something else. I don't think I've ever cried like that.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen it and I've never done it. It was whelping. Like he was whelping for the hard things that he had been through. And it was almost like, it was like the enactment of him digging the hole in, like grabbing the shovel and like digging the hole, digging down through the dirt to find where he'd buried all those feelings. And then like him pulling them up and just like verbalizing them was so powerful.
Yeah.
Like
amazing.
We just, to the point where we had no words when he was doing it. And I just couldn't get that out of my head. Like yes, it was happy. It was a good feeling because we'd been through a lot of good stuff in the 40 minutes bringing him back up. But like, I just couldn't focus on that. It was just like, just the raw hurt he was feeling was just like stuck in my brain. And I was like, I just never want to feel like that. So many people are just going terribly, like, and they just ignore it. It's like, how many times did he ignore it with substance, anything? And like the time he verbalized it, he probably felt best because after it, he was all happy. Like, yes, we had a part in that, but it was like, he probably felt a little bit of like relief after just like verbalizing it out loud. Cause it almost sounded like he'd never said that out loud before. Like, I miss my ex. He's probably thought it in his head, but it's so different speaking it.
Yeah.
And admitting it to other people.
Definitely. And there's just levels on that. Like it was clear that like his ex was just a surface level thing and like there was emotional pain there, but like it was everything else in his life that had like not gone the way he wanted it to and that like has been so traumatic for him. Like he loosely touched on his brother and issues there. And it was clear that like that pain was an accumulation of like every aspect of his life that is just not going the way like anyone wants it to go. And it was just this abundance of pain. And I think for me, like certainly the biggest thing that stuck out and still is the same right now, which I told the boys in the moment was like, the hardest thing is that I want to help this guy so bad. Like seeing how much pain this guy's in, I want to help him so bad. But I know the reality is that I'm probably not going to be able to, like, for so many reasons. One being like, who knows where he ends up from here. Yeah, I have his number, but like, who's to say he's going to reach out to me? Or like when I reach out to him, who's to say he's going to respond? And there's just so many reasons why I'm probably never going to see that guy again. And like, I can try. And like, I have been trying to contact him, but have had no response. And that's the hardest thing for me is like, I just have this insane experience, but I don't get a chance to help like him immediately. And it's like, I can help other people through this, I guess. Maybe like anyone listening to this, like just thinks about their life. And on that, like the thing Pat spoke of, like the biggest thing that stuck out for him was how close he is to that. Like how a few decisions in his life could have like gone differently, zigged when he should have zagged, and he would be in that exact same situation. He would like Dan was 22 years old, my age, like insane how literally so many things could have happened.
Well, that definitely speaks to my like final thoughts on it. And I haven't had a whole lot of time to reflect. Well, I have had a whole lot of time. I just haven't put time into reflecting on it as much as I should have. But it's like we're so close to that. Like we're the same thing as he is. Like we're also a human. And I mean, being able to, I think it's important to be able to contemplate that you could also be in that situation. I think a lot of us like subconsciously think that we would never be that person. We could never go that far down. Anything can happen to you. Like think about the thing that you like cherish the most. What happens if that was gone? Like say it was a person. What happens if they're hit by a truck? It's like, what would you do then? Like, would you spiral and end up like that person in 2 years?
You can't know.
We are so close. You need to break down the barrier. For personally, I need to break down the barrier between me and Dan. Like I need to know that we are the same thing. Like, and he's just another version of me. But yeah, I just, that pain, I never want to feel that pain that he feels. And I know that's a selfish thing to be thinking about, but like, I just never want to feel like that because I could see just I can understand. It's like, why would you want to live if you feel like that? Like it is just like, if that consumes your thoughts. But yeah, I think happiness, fulfillment, that's the things. It's just like, it makes you grateful for those things.
Yeah, I think for me, like having had time to process it a bit more, like just gratitude. Like gratitude is just poured into my life. And like I know Will is, I saw him last night and he's just on the biggest high of his life. He's so happy and so grateful for everything he has. And no doubt that experience like was a like directing impact of that, a major cause of his gratitude. Same for me, like knowing like Dan's reality and like we don't know it exactly, but knowing like what's happening for him now. And I'm just like, wow, my life is so good. I'm so thankful for everything I have, how easy my life is and just how safe it is, how loving it is. Like the love, just to know like how many people love me in my life is amazing. And the reality of anyone can be there. Like anyone that's listening and genuinely thinks like that could never be me, like I highly encourage you to go and watch a documentary called The Push by Darren Brown. It really highlights like conformity, like within people. Basically like this, Darren Brown is a mentalist. I don't know his actual, I guess like title, but let's just call him a mentalist. He does a lot of social experiments and like plays around with psychology and behavioral economics and stuff. And he takes like these ordinary, like his, I guess idea and his thought is, can he take like just everyday standard people and convince them to murder someone? And you will seriously be amazed at what happens. And I think it just really beautifully highlights how like we have little control over what we do.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a hard thing to process because again, we leave that experience after 1 hour and we're back onto the trip. I'm driving again. I'm focusing on the road. We move on to the next thing. So we'll never be able to fully process that to the extent that you could, I think. But the gratitude is the biggest part, definitely. Just knowing what you have and appreciating that. And it sucks that sometimes we have to go through a situation like that just to know it. It does suck, but yeah, we hope Dan's doing well, I guess. And yeah, do you have anything else to add to it?
No, that's pretty much it. I think like the overall arching theme is just like be grateful for your life. And if there's anything you take from this story, it's that like just pull over. Like if you see someone with hazards on, pull over and just see if they're okay. Yeah. And just, try to be grateful for your life.
Speaking on like the love stuff as well with him, like for some people it's like cut the bullshit. Like as hard as it is, like family is hard. Any like close relationships, almost family. is difficult sometimes, but like, just cut the BS because you don't know what you have till it's gone. And just like, I bet you Dan craves the fucking best friend that you have, or the partner that you have, or the parents that you have. It's like, you probably could not even quantify how much he wants that. And you just have it. And you let little things get in the way of that. It's just, for me personally, sometimes I get caught up in that, like little things here and there. And it's just like, dude, let it go. It's so pathetic. Like, it's pathetic. It really is. Like,
definitely.
Just define your relationships for what they are. It's like,
that's it.
What do they actually do for you? You know, not on the surface value. It's like, look deep within you. If you didn't have that, what do you look like without it? And that's the definition of what you have. So
yeah, it's pretty much it.
But, yeah, man.
Yeah. Thank you all for listening. Yeah, it was a crazy experience. And
not one that you hope everyone has, like you spoke to, but it was definitely like, it's added character.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's like anything.
You got to take it for what it is.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Stay tuned and we will catch you in the next one. Love you all.
I just like did that.